All right, we are live here from the WFMY News 2 Storm Center as we are in the middle of this winter storm. Meteorologist Tim Buckley and I in the storm center, right over my shoulder or right in front of your face, depending on how it is. Tim, this has been kind of an interesting storm so far. We went into it sort of knowing that it was going to be complicated, and it has proved every bit complicated. So you want to give us kind of a rundown of what we've seen so far and kind of what we're seeing right now?
Yeah, well, so far, the most. Yeah. Let me unmute my microphone there. So far, what we have seen is we saw a quick burst of snow like we expected this afternoon, starting at 4, lasting through about 5, 6 o'clock or so across much of the area. That added up to a quick, 2 inches in some spots. In Rockingham County, they saw that. Parts of Eden saw a whole lot of snow up there. In the immediate triad, more along the lines of half an inch to an inch, depending on where you are. Going forward, we're starting to see that intense change over to sleet. So sleet is the predominant precipitation that the triad is seeing right now, but also to the south of us, we're pretty concerned about the threat for freezing rain. So instead of a big snow event, this is turning into a big wintry mix event. We talked ahead of time of that track changing a couple of miles either way was going to have a big impact on the forecast, and it certainly looks like it's shifted to the point where we are going to look for more of a wintry mix rather than the big snows.
Yeah.
We lost you. Hello. Okay, well, Grant's frozen. We can keep it going. From here on out, we're still looking at a lot of precipitation across the area. In fact, the radar is completely full, and lots of moisture continues to head in. So from here on out, what we're going to be watching is exactly who's seeing sleet and exactly who's seeing freezing rain. Right now, most of the triad is looking at freezing rain, or at sleet, I should say. That's the type of precipitation that when you hear it outside, it's pinging, like little ice balls that freeze before they hit the ground. Sleet is definitely not as dangerous as freezing rain is, but freezing rain still is a possibility as we head into the next couple of hours. Even in the triad, we could pick up a light glaze, maybe even as much as 1/10 of an inch of ice. Now, the farther south you go, the better chance of seeing some of that freezing rain. So if you're in Randolph County, this could be a bad storm for you with maybe as much as 1/4 of an inch of ice, and that's usually enough to produce at least some scattered.
All right, so I think I'm unfrozen over here now. With this growing concern for sleet and freezing rain now, I actually had a question of somebody asking, how do you measure sleet or freezing rain? And, sleet you measure just like you would measure snow. You get out a ruler and you stick it into, whatever accumulation that you have with those little ice pellets, and you send in whatever that accumulation is. You're probably not going to get that deep of sleet accumulation. Now, freezing rain accumulation is a little bit different, and it's more difficult to measure that freezing rain. Again, you have to measure that freezing rain from something like a tree branch or maybe an elevated surface like a railing or something like that. But you're going to have to measure, basically put up the ruler right next to like that tree branch and kind of look at it from the side and say, okay, it's about that thick. And measure it in a few places and kind of take the average. And again, it's going to be really hard because I don't think our ice accumulations are that thick here in the triad, but areas south down towards Asheboro and southern Randolph County could get close to that 1/4 inch and maybe even a little bit more than that in some places. We'll see how that plays out. This has been one of those systems where we knew all along that there was going to be a broad line between what type of precipitation that we see. Somebody actually said to me earlier today, I wish we just got all snow. And yeah, that would make it a lot easier to get one type of precipitation, because then you would go into an event knowing exactly what you were going to get. And in this case, it's not that we're getting any more precipitation or any less precipitation than we'd expected. It's just the type of precipitation, and that's been a huge challenge. We were expecting for the transition from snow over to sleet to happen sometime around 8 or 9 o'clock, and honestly, it started sometime right around 5 o'clock. So that's about 3 hours difference of less snow accumulation than we were anticipating, and that could have amounted to that 2 to 4 inches of snow across the triad, but again, it didn't. So we're kind of left right now just, really waiting and seeing. We know we're getting the sleet across the area, and we're wondering, do we get that freezing rain? And once we start getting that freezing rain, Tim, it really does become a concern of how much do we see, because with the precipitation expected to continue until 5 o'clock in the morning, maybe a little bit later, that could amount to some thick ice accumulation.
Yeah, for sure. And let me unmute my microphone here. There we go. I wanted to share some pictures here that we're getting on our WFMY News 2 Weather Network page. This is a photo from Jonathan Jones. He's one of our News 2 weather spotters. And he showed freezing rain in Randleman. This was around 7 o'clock, and you can see on this photo here ice accumulating on his car. He says it's 22 degrees, which is extremely cold for freezing rain. And that's what he was seeing at that point. He didn't see the sleet bouncing anymore. Typically with sleet, you start to see it bounce up and down when it hits, like little pinging ice balls. But he, again, is seeing that freezing rain where he is. Now, I want to go back into our WFMY News 2 Weather Network group and show you another report that we just got from one of our weather folks. He was saying on his drive home from a little while ago in High Point, he experienced freezing rain the whole way to Greensboro until he hit I-40. Once he hit 40, he said that it turned back into a snow-sleet mixture. And now he's saying on Hicone Road, which I don't know where that is, I'll have to look that up, he's saying he's seen predominantly snow again. So basically the theme here is we are getting a wide range of possible precipitation types, a wide range of precipitation varieties across the triad. So where you are is just going to be crucial to what you see. The farther north and west, the better chance for snow and sleet. The farther south and east, the better chance for ice. And really the worst part of this storm now looks like it's going to be that ice. So if you are south and east, it's going to be kind of rough over the next several hours, I'm afraid. You might hear some trees snapping. I wouldn't be shocked to see widespread power outages, especially closer to Raleigh and farther south towards Charlotte.
We just had a question, somebody asking, how cold does it have to be to get all snow? And really it's not so much of a question of how cold does it have to be, but it has a question to do with how deep is that layer of sub-freezing temperatures. Of course you need to have temperatures below freezing in order to have snow in the first place, but like Tim and I have been talking about throughout the day, it's not so much of a concern right now of what the temperature is at the surface, but more so of what the temperature is in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. I'm going to share with you here actually here, I'll show you this. Tim, can you see that right now, the buff kit?
No, it looks black to me.
Oh,
there it is. I found it.
Oh, you found it. Okay, great.
No, it's black again.
Okay, now
There's back.
It's back. I'm going to stop this and start over because my computer's running slow. Anyway, once my computer gets out of its kinks out of it, I'm going to show you basically it's a cross-section of the atmosphere, and that cross-section really will give you an understanding of what we get or what we can look at when it comes to that. I'm really having trouble with this screen sharing thing. There we go. Okay, now you should be able to see it. So if you look here on this screen here, it's a lot of lines, a lot of dashed lines, and it's probably really confusing. But the most important thing is I want you to notice is there at the bottom of the screen. See where it says 0, and that dashed line extending kind of to the diagonal to the right. That's going vertically into the atmosphere. So you're going higher up, and you're looking at a cross-section. The red line is your temperature, and the green line is your dew point temperature. Not so important because you can see how they're combined together once you get higher up off the ground. So lower to the bottom of the screen, that's the ground. Higher up off the screen to the top of the screen is higher up into the atmosphere. But you see how that line, the green and blue lines, where they're together, it crosses over that 0 line. That 0 line is the freezing line. So actually that 0 represents 0 degrees Celsius. So somewhere up in the atmosphere, there actually I think it's around 5,000 feet, you're getting temperatures that are above freezing. So you go up a little bit higher, up to around 10,000 feet, and you see that line is on the left side of that 0 line. So that means that it's snowing up in 10,000 feet above the ground, and snows. Once it drops to about 5,000 feet, it actually warms in the atmosphere, so it's melting, and that's what's causing all of this nasty wintry weather is you're having this melting snowflake, and then it falls back into a layer of the atmosphere where it is below freezing, and depending on how warm that liquid was able to warm up to, it determines how quickly it freezes or maybe doesn't freeze. In the case of freezing rain, it falls as a liquid and then it freezes once it hits the ground. So this is just one of our forecast models. This is looking at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's showing that we still have ice pellets. And I'm just going to walk you through the time. It's 4 a.m., 5 a.m. See how that, we call it a warm nose, or that area of warm air up around 5,000, 6,000 feet, actually gets colder. So it looks like here in Greensboro, I think our concern, I'm going back in time now, this is midnight, 11 a.m. This forecast model, which is the Rapid Update product, it is showing that we just have a sleet concern for us overnight. Heavy at times, yes, but the good news for us, it doesn't look like it is a huge freezing rain threat. We'll see how that plays out, but right now, we're seeing a mixture of stuff across the area, and that mixture of stuff is anything from snow to the north, sleet in Greensboro and the Triad area, and then even some freezing rain to the south.
A whole lot of stuff.
Exactly.
A lot of stuff for this winter event. And not to belabor the point, Graham, but I want to bring up a diagram as well that it's actually a graphic you created, a really good one to help explain the precipitation types in another way. Let's show here. I posted this on my Facebook page. You can view it there if you want to. But this here is a diagram showing the difference. We actually made this a couple weeks ago. We had a brief period of sleet during an afternoon, and I've got a lot of folks saying, hey, it's hailing outside. Well, no, it wasn't. It was actually sleet, and this diagram shows you the difference between all sorts of different icy precipitation. Let's talk about sleet, though, because that's what most folks across the Triad will see overnight tonight. Right here where my cursor is, this is snow falling from a cloud where cold air is way above the surface. Once that snow can reach a warm layer of air, this orange-colored air here being above freezing, above 32 degrees, that snow melts and forms some water droplets. Basically melts into a raindrop, or maybe only partially melts into a partially melted snowflake. But you get the idea. It melts a little bit. Then the problem is, and this is the case right now, sometimes we get a big layer of cold air near the surface here in the Carolinas in the wintertime. We have a huge layer of cold air right now. So those snowflakes are falling. We have a warm layer that they're melting in, and then they're refreezing into tiny little ice balls that ping and bounce as they hit the surface, and it can accumulate somewhat like snow. So sleet can still give you an accumulation. It just is a lot different than snow, not as fluffy. It's these little tiny ice balls. Freezing rain is totally different. It does still fall as snow. It falls into a much warmer layer typically, and then it finds a just shallow enough layer toward the surface where it doesn't have a chance to freeze into an ice pellet. Instead, there's not enough time, and it's going to hit the ground as a raindrop. And the problem is, once the ground is like it is right now, maybe 25 degrees, maybe warmer than that, it freezes on impact. So freezing rain, it creates these sheets of ice. That's what coats the trees. That's what makes everything very difficult for travel, and it makes power outages very likely. Sleet usually doesn't do that. Freezing rain does, and that's the main difference. How much cold air do you have available to you, and how about that warm layer above the surface? Hail is totally different. That comes in a thunderstorm, and we're not going to spend much time on that because no one's going to see hail today. So we're done with hail.
Tim, it's interesting. I'm just looking at the radar over here now, and unfortunately we're not able to share that with you guys at home. Our weather computer over here. I guess I could bring the camera around. I'm going to do that, just to kind of show you what we're looking at. So, the whole time that we've been working with this event, it's been, on the radar, it's shown as snow, but what's interesting now is we're starting to get, that indication of sleet finally, represented on the radar, but I really don't trust, how our radar is breaking down the precipitation across the area. But the precipitation is heavier right now. We started to get some lighter precipitation right around 7 o'clock or so. Now as we're headed towards 8:30, precipitation is picking up again, so it really will be interesting. I'd really be curious to see what Winston-Salem is getting right now. I'm going to pause this to see. Winston-Salem has that heavier snow, or at least heavier precipitation across the area, so I'd be curious, Winston-Salem, if anybody in Winston-Salem is watching, let us know what you see out there, because we can't rely on that radar to give us a good indication of what's happening out there.
One of the things I think might be happening out there, and this is just a theory, is it seems that a lot of the freezing rain reports might be coming in when the precipitation is lighter. When it's heavier, it seems like that precipitation is able to be that sleet across the area. So what might be happening is with the heavier precipitation, you get more evaporational cooling. That's some of the water droplets as they fall evaporating, cooling things down, and that's enough of an extra oomph to refreeze it into a sleet pellet. So some of that might be the case where when you get those batches of heavier precip, it comes in as sleet. But either way, what we're looking at is mainly sleet in the Triad area, mainly freezing rain south of I-85, say.
So Tim, put on the spot here. Do you think we see all sleet in, we'll say 40. We'll draw a line of 40. 40 north, do we see the entire area transition over to sleet, or do you think we still keep some places up towards Mount Airy and we'll say, northern Stokes County, do they say snow all night? What do you think?
Wow, that's a good question. I think if you're in southern Virginia, you're able to stay snow. But if you're in Mount Airy, that's a really tough call. You might get some sleet mixing in. I certainly think in Reedsville you get sleet mixing in. If you're in Stokes County, you probably get some sleet mixing in. If you are able to stay snow, though, you're going to get a lot of it. You could get 4 to 6, maybe more than 6. If you stay snow the whole time, there's enough precip to give you a lot of snow. I think that the warm nose is strong enough. A lot of people get sleet. And here in the Triad, the big question is, do we get enough freezing rain, or do we get any freezing rain at all? I think we'll get some. I don't think we'll get a crippling amount, but south of us, that could be a different story if you're in Ashburn.
Okay, sorry, I had my stuff muted. I just had a question came in from Richard74205. He asked, what is the criteria for an ice storm warning? Clearly, the criteria is going to be different for different parts of the country, but I am looking up right now to try to figure out that exact answer, because, like I said, it is different, but I'm trying to look it up for the Raleigh area, which is our National Weather Service office that puts out the different warnings for Greensboro, Winston-Salem, and High Point. So just going through here, let's see, ice storm warning. They say the criteria for an ice storm warning is freezing rain accumulations of 1/4 inch or greater, resulting in significant widespread power outages, tree damage, and dangerous travel, issued only in those rare instances where just heavy freezing rain is expected and there will be no mixed bag, quote-unquote, precipitation, meaning no snow, sleet, or rain. So, that sort of says you would only get a freezing rain warning in the event that it's just freezing rain, which this event clearly does not only have, because we have the snow and we have the sleet. So in terms of the winter storm warning that's in effect for tonight into early tomorrow morning, that will remain. I don't think you would see any new advisories issued from the National Weather Service due to kind of the onset of the sleet and then now the resulting freezing rain overnight.
Yeah, I think they're kind of just letting winter storm warning just kind of cover the board here with this one. The word is out, though, and especially in the Raleigh area, holy cow, they're going to see a lot of freezing rain and really a lot of problems with that. So if you have friends in Raleigh, friends in Charlotte, even like I said before, friends in Randolph County, you might be looking at power outages there, trees down a possibility. Here in the Triad, I still don't think that we see a lot of that. Of course, that could change. We've seen this storm do what it wants to so far, but again, the predominant precipitation should be sleet, and sleet is never quite as bad as people think it is. So hopefully that is the case, that we are able to remain that way, but still best to be very careful. Either way, the roadways are bad now. They will stay bad tonight, and I tell you what, the roads are going to be bad for a long time after this system is over with, because unless you got a plow coming through, and unless you got treated roadways, they are going to be tough going.
Yeah, I'm going to pull up the 7-day forecast real quick on our website just to illustrate what you're talking about.
Don't do it.
Oh, I'm going to do it. I have to.
It's so bad.
It gets so cold. It gets so cold. Have a look.
You know what? We're going to have to look up at some point tonight. When have we seen a cold stretch in the Triad like we're forecasting? Because this is pretty significant. I can't remember a colder stretch this winter, and I don't know if I can remember a colder stretch last winter either.
I don't think so. We'll have that ability, and we'll have to do that. But I mean, whatever we get tonight, which is a little bit of everything from snow to sleet to freezing rain. You look at those low temperatures going into even starting Wednesday morning, 16 degrees, 5 degrees, 4 degrees. Now we may have to adjust these numbers a little. We were sort of banking on a little more snowpack, which would result in colder overnight low temperatures. But still, it's another blast of just bone-chilling air that comes down Wednesday night. So it gets ridiculously cold, and so any precipitation out there, whether it's snow, sleet, freezing rain, it's still going to be there, and it's still going to turn into ice with temperatures below 20 degrees for that matter for the next few nights. We don't get back above freezing for actual daytime highs. I mean, discounting Tuesday maybe, but really definitely not until the weekend.
Ouch.
Yeah, it hurts. It hurts.
That's the bad news, isn't it? So we have a lot longer to go with winter. I think there were a lot of people on Facebook, I seem to remember, saying that winter was dead the last couple of weeks. It's alive and well, and I don't like that, but that is the case.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we were kind of allotting 30 minutes to do this Google Hangout. We have a lot of stuff to get ready for and kind of reanalyze as we get ready for WFMY News 2 at 11. So all of you watching, I think this was, hopefully helpful for you guys to navigate your night, and then, of course, prepare for what's to come in the morning. But I think the overall theme is that it's not a fun winter storm. It definitely has an icy side to it, which is as fun as it sounds, which is not very fun at all. So, we're watching for ice accumulating on elevated surfaces. So that's bridges, overpasses, that's your, what else is that? That's your trees, power lines, and that sort of thing. So a big, big thing to keep an eye out for overnight. And, of course, Tim, you're going to be here at 11. Of course, I'll be here.
Yep.
And, we've got crews spread across the entire triad that's going to be bringing you video from different parts of the area, so you don't have to go out. Hopefully, you're safe at home, and of course we love your pictures and videos and whatever else you can provide us with, because like we've shown, the radar and our weather instruments don't always give us an honest picture of what's out there.
Right. Yeah, and the more viewer reports, the better. Our radar has really done a poor job so far of letting us know what precipitation type is falling. So you are our eyes and ears. Please continue to send them in, and we'll go from there.
All right, good stuff, Tim. I appreciate you hanging out with us for 30 minutes. You've been kind of behind the scenes all day, so it's been good stuff. So we're gonna get back to trying to grind some numbers out, put together some graphics, and hopefully give you a good forecast of 11. We'll see. But right now it's more ice and more cold. So any more questions? Of course, you know where to find us on Twitter and on Facebook, and we will see you guys at 11.